The Pittsburgh Steelers sideline at Soldier Field was almost vacant, save for a few stray workers and 4 members of the coaching staff who stood at attention as the Star-Spangled Banner was sung in a deep bass by lyric opera of Chicago veteran Wilbur Pauley. The only Steelers player truly within range of his voice was offensive tackle Alejandro Villanueva, a West Point graduate and former Army Ranger who stood just outside the tunnel to the locker room, near the corner of the end zone. The rest of the Steelers chose a unique protest in response to Donald Trump's unprovoked verbal assault on their rights, as American citizens, to protest whatever injustices they might perceive. They remained in the stadium tunnel until it was time to begin the game. "We didn't ask for this. This was placed upon us by circumstance," Coach Mike Tomlin said following the Steelers' overtime loss to the Bears. "My contention was that we would not allow politics to divide us. We're football players. We're a football team. If many of them felt like something needed to be done, I asked those guys to discuss it, and whatever they discussed we have 100% participation or we do nothing. They couldn't come to an understanding, so they chose to remove themselves from it." Previously, the Steelers had avoided any on-field national anthem protests subsequent to Colin Kaepernick's visible campaign regarding several episodes of harsh or deadly police treatment of African Americans that occurred in summer 2016. Steelers players always had maintained it was out of respect for Villanueva, a valued teammate. However, Trump's rant this weekend at a rally in Alabama coerced every NFL locker room into making some sort of decision. The Steelers chose wisely. They decided not to take Trump's bait. What Trump wished to accomplish with his frantic Friday night vitriol was to entice every NFL player, but particularly those who are African American, into wider and perhaps more involved protests so that those people who have followed every one of his ludicrous convolutions could view their opponents more clearly. That Trump continued to underscore his antipathy with tweets that were presented both Saturday and Sunday only reinforced his determination to force the players' hands on this. Every single player who knelt or raised a fist Sunday had not only the right to do so, but also the profound justification. The man who was elected to serve as the president of the nation in which they work and reside had labeled some of them sons of bitches for choosing to exercise their First Amendment right to protest and declared they should be suspended from their jobs or fired for these actions. This represented both fouler language and stronger condemnation than he applied to the white supremacists whose Charlottesville protests in August resulted in the death of an innocent young woman. Sunday morning on ABC News, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin had attempted to justify his boss' histrionics by explaining such protests should not be transacted while one is working one's job. Mnuchin criticized the NFL for policing other personal statements that players might make through their apparel but not with their conduct during the national anthem. However, work rules are a matter for the employer to decide in concert with whatever representation the workforce might maintain. So if this were the subject of Trump's rage, then perhaps the profanity should have been unleashed toward the NFL owners who either neglected, or chose not, to force such language into the collective bargaining agreement reached in 2011. Trump declared the course he wanted those owners to follow, emphasis on the word follow here, but only opted to debase the players choosing to protest. He knows which Americans he values, and he wants those people to gain an unobstructed view of the ones he does not. Many of them were not going to accept the words of the president, Tomlin said of his players. So we decided to sit it out, to not take the field, to remove ourselves from it to focus on playing football. So those were our intentions. Man, these are divisive times in the United States. It's a shame what it is, but we're not politicians. We're coaches and professional athletes. To be quite honest, I did not appreciate our football team being dragged into politics this weekend. And I'm sure that's a global perspective. We understand that we're given a platform. People apply pressure to us to do things because of that platform, and the bottom line is, we chose not to play ball today in that regard. Maybe we will. But today, we just said no. The Steelers were criticized by former coach Bill Cowher on CBS The NFL Today for their silent protest. I think there's a strongest message to be sent to be out there, Cowher said. You can still be united, but you can also have different thoughts on it. Whether you are kneeling, or whether you are standing, it's an individual right. And I think it's a stronger message than not going out there at all. We can be united, but we can think differently. The Steelers' action reflected an awareness, however, that nothing about Rump's words or actions indicates unity to be among his goals. People died for freedom, Steelers Hall of Famer Terry Bradshaw said on Fox's NFL Sunday. I'm not sure our president understands that freedom. Sunday before they played the Chicago Bears, the Pittsburgh Steelers freely exercised their right not to participate in a benign pregame ritual that Donald Trump had chosen to turn into a referendum on fitness to live in his America. Theirs was a most eloquent silence.